I'm ready.
Okay. Hey, everybody, it's Kerry,
And it's Tiffany.
and we're the JoyRide Show.
Hello, friends. It's so good to see everybody and to be back on the JoyRide.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Kerry Walker. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, honey. Mwah.
It is her 50th birthday today. And it's another great anniversary.
Yes. So today in 2016, in April 21st, 2016,
5 years ago.
5 years ago, we started the JoyRide Show, the very first show. We
It was
pulled out
our-
of the driveway.
Yes, it was our first show that we ever recorded, and we were so nervous, and we had no idea it was going to be the beginning of this beautiful journey together and this friendship that just took to another level, and all the friends that we met out on the road, incredible people we've talked to and lessons learned, and some were a little difficult.
Yeah, but that's where the good stuff happens.
But here we are. Thank you for joining us. We are the Metaphysical Moms, Tiffany and Kerry, and we're back.
We're back. We are back.
5-year anniversary.
5-year anniversary. So I was on a walk a couple days ago, and Tiff and I have had these really great ideas, and we think they're great, and we've been playing with some different concepts of potentially starting the show again on more of a regular basis, and we're started to ping, that feeling of, oh, that's a great idea, or this is a great idea, or whatever. And Tiff said, well, we could record. Let's look at next week and see what we have. All of a sudden, I thought, April 21st, 2016, we started the show. Here we are.
Yeah, this last couple years, we have had all kinds of influences. I'll just say COVID, the pandemic, all kinds of the winter storm, all kinds of things happening that have just kind of felt like wrenches in the works, or just taken our time and attention away, where we haven't done this very much. We've done a few shows sort of via Zoom or sitting outside, but we're both getting more comfortable being together, and not us being together, but just getting our vaccines and kind of being together and not worrying about that.
I thought you meant the other
being together again. And we have had so many incredible experiences that we want to talk about, and the difference from where we were 5 years ago to where we are now, and lessons learned along the way.
And there've been a lot of them. And I want to shout out to Amy. She was a childhood friend of mine who recently got back in touch, and there have just been several people that have popped up, and people are awakening. I mean, they're having their own incredible awakening, and that makes me go back and everybody's filled with all these questions, and what does this mean, and where do I go for that? And it really makes you stop and take stock of where you were to where you are now, because growth is such a gradual thing. That's really what you and I were talking about, is like, what do we believe? What do we fundamentally, like, what are our lives built on? I can't get this out.
Well, I know when I first started getting excited about metaphysical, spiritual, otherworldly experiences, because I was having them, it's like I wanted to know about Reiki and astral travel and crystals and blah, 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 blah. There's a million different fun tools and experiences to have, and it can be a little overwhelming in the beginning, and you just want to read all the books, go to all the seminars, all the videos, and I know for me at least, it got really overwhelming, and I had to do that. I had to go and just kind of hear how everybody else was doing it and what their story was, what their journey was, until I sort of, those truths just sort of settled into me.
Yeah.
And now when I look back from the beginning to now, I do have these just concrete truths that I know, that I don't question anymore. And it just took a lot of time and experience and repetition to sort of settle them into my bones and replace some of these older, misguided, just didn't know experiences or beliefs that I'd had growing up. And it just feels so much better. I mean,
and this has been a really big thing. My guides and I have been talking a lot about this, because to see the frameworks that we live in and we operate in, that's the hardest part, because you don't see yourself. I often say it's like seeing the color of my own eyes. I can't see it
Yeah.
unless I have it reflected back to me. And so I think that's the first thing for me, was trying to figure out why I do what I do, because I kept bumping into the same things. I mean, I would get upset, and that person did this to me and that person did that to me, and at that point, early on, it never occurred to me that, what is my role in that? Do I
Yeah.
have a role in that? No, no, no. I don't think I do. I'm great. I
It's
mean,
all
I'm
their
yeah,
problem.
it's there. It's there. It's like,
Their
okay,
fault.
okay. And now I really do. I don't want to get preachy about it, but I do find that those are opportunities. Like, and the reason I say that is I feel that waking up, when you're waking up to these incredible experiences, whether it's hearing ghosts, seeing ghosts or aliens, or I mean, there are some really cool stuff out there. Finding the balance and healing yourself really makes that journey
Mhm.
uh,
And not being scared of it,
balanced.
that they're
Exactly.
gifts coming to you.
And you don't follow other people.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing for both of us. Neither one of us have kind of followed a guru or a teacher exclusively. We've both wanted to do this very independently
Kind of a
and
lone wolf.
not get committed.
Independence unite.
Yes, yeah. And so, but we thought we would share some of the truths that we have adopted, believed, at least at this point in our journey, that have really just fit. They just fit who we are, where we are. And you want to
Okay.
start? Tell us one of your truths.
Okay. So one of my truths, and I've already kind of touched on it, there are no victims. I'm not a victim. I mean, and I remember, and I've said this before, if you've watched the past shows, I remember Tiff and I, when we first met, we were tapping because cancer was really one of my huge, like the biggest fear I had. And I would have to go through chemo and all this terrible stuff, and I'd lose my family, or my family would lose me. And I mean, it was just debilitating. And I remember, anyway, I did end up having this little spot on my arm, and had to deal with that.
Which ended up being melanoma.
Yeah, it was, but I didn't have to go through chemo
Right.
radiation. It hadn't metastasized, and I went in, and I was doing tapping with Tiff, and that really should be a name of a show. Anyway, I was doing tapping, and she said she said something to me to the effect of, "How did you attract this?" I was like, I
Fuck
did
you.
not attract this. And I mean, I was so angry, and now I see how I attracted it, and I see how that was for me. And so that is one example of victim. And I used to say I thought people did this. Like, if meaning, if when I start saying people let me down, well, that might be something for me to look at, because people don't let me down. I view it that way. Why do I view it that way? So I think that would be my number one truth, is everything happens for me. I guess there are two of them, and there are no victims ever.
Love it.
Thank you.
I concur. And that sort of leads into what mine is. My number two was, what's true as a human is not always what's true in the spiritual, larger perspective way. I mean, that's a hard thing to swallow if you've been assaulted or raped, or like, I'm not a victim. Well, as a human, yes, that happened to you. You had to go through that experience, or somebody's stolen something from you, or divorced you, or something.
There are some bad things going on out there. Yeah.
It's as a human, it absolutely feels like that. But in the bigger sense, we came here to have these experiences, to learn big, just to have the experience. You can't experience forgiveness or generosity until there's something has happened to you, or somebody needs something from you.
Right.
And
Okay, I have to say, you have a big one, because you, on a daily basis, you have a lot going on with your kids.
so I have a child with a rare genetic condition. It's a progressive, debilitating condition, and ooh, it's hard to not see it as a curse. And why us? Why him? And worst case scenario,
Going to the end of
it could be really bad. And so that human truth of, this is horrible, I hate it, it has to go away, we have to fix it, is very real for me. And I have to feel all those feelings. But on the other hand, and I've come to this truth because we've done readings with our guides, and they've like, he came in to have that experience. He's such an older soul. He came in to teach you guys about unconditional love and patience and gratitude and living a life where maybe you don't have full physical abilities and you have to develop other abilities. And how does everybody show up for you? And I think it was Allison in our show. She said, my little family travels as a soul group and we take turns having some big issue to deal with. My husband in one past life had his legs blown off in a war and became debilitated, in a wheelchair or whatever, like 1700s, whatever they got around in that time. And how did we show up as a family to help him or not? In one life, I had big lung issues and couldn't breathe. And just so it's helped me see it from a spiritual perspective. And I've tried to talk to my son about this a little bit. And he's like, why would I choose this? I'm like, honey,
Right.
I don't know, but I do believe that it's here for us to all learn and grow. And it's not a terrible thing. It is going to be hard as you're the one having to go through it, but we're having to love you and parent you and help. We're your family. We're in it with you.
Yeah.
So
But that how okay, so but when you're in the trenches and something there's a flare. So that's what happens is there could
you
be
have
a
these
flare.
episodes of flares where body forms bone, and it's gut wrenching. And my brain goes to the worst case scenario. I won't even voice all of where my brain goes, and I have to dial that back and say,
Right here, right now.
today, right here, right now, this is what we're dealing with. And there's about 1,000 different ways this could go. I'm not going to focus on the worst case because that shuts me down. It shuts me down for my intuition and my
When you
oh
go
the
here,
fear. Yeah.
so you can't reach
Yeah. I
when you're
have to
there.
walk my talk. And some days I totally forget it and I'm in the trenches. But
Now you walk.
usually I find a way. I don't stay down as far as long as I used to, but to really see it from that truth of he's going to get more out of this experience and it's going to take out of him. Like the way we feel here is not the way it's viewed from our soul's perspective.
So Kerry, a friend of ours, Kerry
Mena.
Mena, one day we were talking about relationships and she was having a tough time with somebody in her life and she said, it occurred to me that my person, I don't want to go into her, well, there are no, she has no secrets.
Secrets.
It was with her mom. And she said, maybe my mom had to dial it down so far in order to play that role for me.
Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh. And I've used that because, because there are situations where people do some pretty cruddy things. And especially with a parent, I mean, that's a real long-term one. But to be able to forgive, to find a reason to forgive or to reframe something and not to say that that's my cat. She finds things and it's like a mouse. It's not a mouse, but I've been painting. Anyway, she hauls a brush around. I don't know if they can hear that. I'm sorry. Anyway, but for a person in your life to be able to forgive them and move past it, because when you forgive, you're just putting it down. I mean, you're
Yeah.
the one that has to carry that big load. So you put it down, but sometimes we have to find a reason to forgive them
Yeah. Put a
and
place to put it.
not just say, I'm going to suck it up and deal with it. No, to really, truly put it down. I love that.
That truth, that there's so many different versions of the truth. We see things through our little perspective. That's our truth. And that's how it is. And that's how it must be. And there's just this multi-dimensional 360 view of way of looking at things.
They're really okay. And so I go, okay, let's see. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
She made notes.
I did make notes. Let's see here. That about co-creating, they all kind of go together.
Yeah.
They dovetail very nicely. How we co-create our lives. I think one of my just bedrocks is that I'm creating this life. I am creating this life. And I used to really feel that things happen to me, good or bad. I mean, I got lucky, or, how did I end up with this wonderful man? And how did I end up, whatever this is, bad or good. But now I realize that I've created this. I mean, and it does dovetail in with the other ones. what is the next one for you?
No, that's 1,000%. And my number 3 is the now is where you create from.
Okay,
Um,
explain that.
all of the nows are the now, this now moment, how you feel right now, what you're thinking about right now is what's creating your physiology, your body, your habits, your beliefs, your actions. It's all based in this right now. And I've done a lot of work trying to clear up the past in the present to create a better future.
Oh,
So going back, you're talking about the habits, when things kind of show up for you over and over again, you're like, am I part of this? How am I contributing to this? When I kept seeing those happening, that's when I got into the tapping, the EFT, because it helped me go, wow, look, feel all these emotions, because I'm creating a set of behaviors based on what I'm feeling.
mhm.
And if it's old crap, it's just an awareness to go, wow, I'm going to put that down and try something different. And
Right.
in this moment is where you then create from. And Abraham Hicks is one of my early teachers.
Mhm.
In their book, The Astonishing Power of Emotions, is fundamental reading for anybody who wants to learn about creating. I mean, there's 1,000 incredible books, and they're all saying the same thing in their own way. But your emotions, how you feel, help your thoughts, your behaviors, your actions repetitively over time. Hi, baby. And that is what creates your life. It creates the reality that you're living in, the people and the situations that you attract and you get yourself into. So, 1,000%, we're creating our reality right now. Fun.
Which it is fun, and I think it gets exciting. You know, where I think there's one at one point, and maybe it's because I'm getting older too. And they always say that as you get older, you feel better in your skin,
Yeah.
and then you want to cut it. No, I'm kidding. And and it is
Don't.
no, I'm joking. I no, I don't. I've actually decided I don't want to do that.
She
I don't
doesn't
want
mean
to do
cutting. She means like
no, I mean like
cosmetic surgery.
whatever. So that was a squirrel. No, but life just gets better
Yeah.
and it just gets more exciting and it's interesting that we become on one hand we become wiser and then on the other hand things start to hurt a little more you know or physically we begin to hurt a little more. Okay, speaking of one of my folks that I very early on tuned into, Cryon,
Mm-hmm.
The Journey Home. I remember I read that when I was much younger, then I read it again and it was completely different. And I really almost want to read it again now.
Yeah.
So this gentleman, Lee Carroll, he channels Cryon, and Cryon is a group of entities. And I just love their work. I love what they, it really is that fundamental in a story, this one book, and I'll post a link to this book because it is great. And it's very easy to read. And then the guy has a bad life and his parents died in a car wreck and he hates this bully. I'm gonna put my hands down. He hates, and he's a victim. And anyway, so he goes through this journey of discovering that he's not really a victim and how all of that plays out is fascinating. But Cryon really spoke to me too,
Yeah.
you know.
So I just mentioned Abraham Hicks. Esther and Jerry, when he was alive, Hicks channel Abraham, who's another sort of consciousness entity who deliver all of this just amazing information. And Bashar, Daryl Anka channels
I
Bashar,
love
another one of my
Bashar.
favorites. And we've been all into Seth, where Jane Roberts channels the Seth material. And we've both had these books on our bookshelves forever, and I've just never picked them up. And we both sort of spontaneously started talking about Seth. Oh, it was because
Sarah. Hmm.
Sarah posted an audiobook. And so I started listening to it and I was like, oh, I really like this. It's saying all the same things, but it just delivers it in such a way that, wow. So Kerry and I have been sort of delving into all the different Seth materials. And so you'll probably be hearing us talk a lot about them. Maybe we'll even do a series about the Seth materials,
I
but it
would
could easily just be Cryon or Bashar or Abraham Hicks, all of these other channeled
Yogananda.
material. Yeah.
He was one that I really resonated with. So a few of the folks that have reached out and are asking me questions, they're great questions. And the two people that come to mind instantly are plugged in. I mean, they're so gifted in so many ways and in every way, really. And they're letting go of re- religion, the framework. But it's sort of like, okay, now what? They're a little bit afraid. And they both asked me in the same week about entities and about negative
So once
attachments
you start opening
and
up, like what are you opening up to?
right, exactly. And do I shield up and do all of these things? And it I have a theory, but I want to hear yours first. I would love to just kind of chat on
This
that.
to me is kind of a question that has evolved over time in my mind, because in the beginning I was very fearful of negative evil because of my early experiences. My mom passed away young and we felt sort of an evil presence. We'll put it that way. And the stuff was very traumatizing what happened. And so I felt it and I didn't want anything to do with any of this stuff, spiritual, metaphysical, because it felt very. Plus, I watched Amityville Horror when I was a kid and we did the Ouija board and it just all was very freaky.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until my 20s that I started opening back up and I actually had a reading with my mom and she's like, "Oh, I'm totally fine. There's nothing here that could or would ever hurt you." I'm like, "Well, what happened to you?" So this long story has evolved from fear and defending myself out of fear to the shielding up and saying I'm white light and nothing's going to hurt me to I know that love wins. Continue saying. Okay, we were talking about weird stuff happening and the computer just quit. So we'll pick back up. What I was saying is that I've learned how to not shield myself out of defense, but I want to say stare down. We talked about that yesterday, but just coming from a position of strength and confidence and knowing the knowingness is what has changed for me. The knowingness that we're this beautiful eternal being and that nothing really can hurt you or would hurt you. But we, as humans, we can create that. And I do believe that there are people who have very heavy experiences.
Oh yeah.
And my mom was one of them. And in retrospect, she, in her mental, emotional, and physical condition, had gotten herself to be just more vulnerable to that influence. So I don't have a one size fits all answer here, but I do know that in my experience, I don't shield up, I don't protect, I love it all. And that way I'm not afraid of it anymore, which is a 180, 360, whatever from where I used to be.
180. That's a good
180,
one.
other
Yeah.
end of the spectrum. Yeah. And did that answer your question?
No, it did. It did because I've always been really confused about that too. Because it is. I've always been told you have to do hygiene, you have to do all the psychic hygiene and all this stuff, and I do. I think we both do. I think that we both try to clear debris that we collect during the day off. I for me it's like swimming and just kind of trying to cleanse stuff. But I a couple of times I've seen some scary things or I felt some scary things. And one time I went to someone and just had her clear it. And this was before I woke up. And I just knew it was there. Actually, both times were before I woke up. And and one time I got really scared, and it was in a dream, and it was attacking. I've talked about this before, but it was attacking my now husband, and it was like, and the more it got bigger, and it was like this slimy, weird looking thing, and it just got bigger and bigger, and it was attached to him, and I called in my dream, I called the person that helps me with this stuff, and she's eating, and she's like, "You got this." And I looked at it and I was like, you need to go away, motherfucker, and I just like yelled at it, and it went, and it just smoked and it went away. And so, but I did have an interesting situation. I was in the Denver airport I don't know if I told you this, a few years ago, and I was with my kids. It was during the Epstein. So I'm not sure what all brought this on, but it was right when all the stuff broke with Epstein. And my three boys and I were standing in line waiting to get on the plane. And my son's like, "Oh man, mom, look at this." And so we were huddled around it. I don't know what happened, but I know I mean, we were literally like our heads were looking at the phone. So we were that close, and they're pretty big boys. And I felt myself instantly shield up all of us, and I'm put m- mirrors on to reflect off so nothing
You're
could see
invisible.
us. Yeah. And I don't know, like, I don't know what made me do that. I don't know how I knew to do that, but I kind of trust that I know when to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was the content we were ingesting. I don't know if it was the location, because I've heard some interesting things about that, but it is, I don't know. So all of that. So I think I kind of know. And there are times when I'll wake up and something's not quite right, and I call on Jesus, or I call on, Michael, and
Yeah.
it's just like, you need to come in and just get rid of this. And so I do think there are things out there, but I think that we also reach a point, and I'm not saying, and I'm not being lazy about this, but I think that you do reach a point where they're like, oh, you know what, she's kind of tough to get to. And I'm not, but I think it's out there. And I don't do the Ouija board. I
Yeah,
don't
we don't look for it or call it in.
I don't
I
like
don't engage with
scary
it.
movies. I don't, it's like, yep, see you out there, you serve a purpose. I understand. But go play over
I
there.
used to have these night terrors. I've told you about this so many times, and I was terrified in my dreams. And over the years, since my early 20s, I have stood up to the stuff in my dreams, and they would rip me up by my feet, like, and the feel, whatever this was in my dream, just the feeling, the energy, and overtake me. And now they can't do that to me anymore. Like, it doesn't happen to me anymore. And I've loved bombed them in my dreams. So that's my personal experience with kind of shielding up and protecting, and that fundamental truth. And my mom had told me there's nothing over here that could or would hurt you. I mean, there's stuff that can be mischievous, incarnate spirits, I think, that can cause mischief and mayhem, and but it's like nothing can really hurt you. But once you believe in it and give it power, it feels like it
Like the
does.
skeleton key, that movie, The Skeleton Key.
Yeah. As soon as
That
she
was really
didn't
creepy.
cross that step, you're like,
She's like, oh, you're in trouble,
oh,
sister.
you got it now.
Well, and that's another thing. We have a friend that tells me some of these scary things, and as a warning, and I find myself, it's like, well, I wasn't scared about it before, but now I'm finding myself thinking about it. So then as I'm thinking about it, am I drawing it in? Because all of a sudden it goes, ooh, somebody's somebody's thinking about me, and so I don't know how much, but it's sort of like saying, okay, elephant, don't think about it. Well, of course that's what you're going to think about. So I don't know. That's why, and I don't put my head in the sand. I mean, I'll badass up if I need to, but I just, I don't know. So I'm not sure where. I think you said it right. I mean, I think you said it well. I don't know.
I think it's a
It's not
very
one size
personal
fit.
journey
Yeah.
to where are you on the spectrum. And my number one truth, which I'm going to bring in right now, is that your consciousness is eternal and lives in many other realms, different lives, different states than this limited you personality persona that we believe that we are. So there probably are other realities where you're being a badass and having to shield up and fight, and somebody's doing that. But you can create the reality of you achieving and overcoming and whatever it is that you want to be up to in this life. You can do that. If you can imagine it, you can create that. So because somebody else is having that experience doesn't necessarily mean I have to incorporate it into mine, I
Right.
think, because there's so many other realms and perspectives that if it doesn't fit and feel good, same thing. I don't want to put my head in the sand. And if someone needs my help, I'll do it. But I'm not going to jump in and drown with them, if that makes sense.
I remember when I first started the alien idea. I remember telling you, I remember where I was when I told you this. We were on the phone and I said, but what if they come get me? Like, what if I go outside and then my family thinks I've abandoned them? And you said, well, we'll find you.
We'll come
We
get
know
you.
people. We'll find you.
We'll
We'll
come.
come get you. It's like,
Well, that's another good thing too, because if you're opening up and you're worried about any of this stuff, there are thousands of people who have gone before you in a million different ways and have written to tell about it. Like, here's where you go, here's where you don't go, here's what you avoid, and take a little bit of that feels true and put a toe in the water and open up and get comfortable with the lay in the land. And your experience will be different than anybody else's. But there are guides. This takes me back to when my mom said, if you're going to fall off a cliff, look for the goat. There's a goat happily living off the cliff, munching the grass. That's foot knows all the footholds and the paths on the cliff. So don't be afraid of the cliff. Go for it.
every time I
Go for
started,
the goat.
go for the goat. And we did go for
Look for
goats.
the goat. Yeah.
We did go. So every time I would I always knew when I was going to the next place because you kind of stretch and these ideas seem foreign and weird and ugh. And then, okay, somehow like you said, you discard what you don't need and you take what you do. And, but that is always the point that I'd say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Metaphysical, not doing it. And then, okay, fine. I mean, you can't keep me away from it because we're just remembering, we're waking up to who we really are. And then I go to the next level, and I haven't done that in a long time.
What said, I'm done?
I'm done. Yeah.
Not doing it anymore. Yeah.
I don't think I've done that in a long time. I mean, I was getting ready to walk away from all of it a few times.
But it's hard. Once you've learned it, you can't unlearn it.
Right.
And that's why it feels so true to me now that I'm an eternal being. I have many other realities and lives. I've talked to my deceased mom and stepdad. I've had out of body experiences and past life regressions and astral travel experiences. And now that's so true for me. I know that that exists just because my five senses can't always experience it. And so developing that intuition and that knowingness, it's just opening doors and it's exciting. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to watch TV. I'm going to go inside. It's so much more entertaining in here of all the different places I can go. And then somebody spoon feeding me what I feel is just processed food.
See, but that I've got, so that's the difference. I think that has probably been one of my biggest, and as you're saying this, I realize I've crossed that threshold because wherever you go, there you are. I mean, you don't know. And I remember thinking, where do I want to go with this? Not the show, not anything like at the very beginning, I wanted to be a medium, but I realized that was for my ego. And I've watched friends of ours that are incredible. And at that, and eventually you're ready to do something else. I mean, it eventually, and it's so wonderful and it's so cool. But at the beginning, that's what I wanted because I realized I wanted to be able to say, "Hey, Fred, I have your grandfather Jim here," and
which she does, by the way, because we were talking yesterday, and I was talking about my mom, and I was like, "Well, let me ask her what happened," and she's like, "Well, she's saying that you totally do this, so she is a medium."
Thank you for that. But but it never scratches the itch. Like you don't ever feel like you're there. I remember Emma saying that. She's like, I don't know if I can really get anything. It's like, are you kidding me? You brought in my husband's grandfather that died in 1920 and I don't even know his name. I mean,
this is Emma McIntosh in Belgium, who's an amazing, incredible medium. It's one of the best ones out there. And she still doubts herself. So
I don't think you're there, but that has been something recently that's really occurred to me. And because it is such an unframed, the other side is unframed. Like here, we like our boxes, we like our house, we like our purses, we like our cars, we like to put, everything needs a container.
It's like our rational mind has to have a label and a name and a place for everything.
Right. That's exactly. And so when on the other side, you don't get that. And so that's the way I feel about the work that we do. It's like, I need framework, but then I don't want the framework. I don't want to be a Reiki practitioner. I mean, I've done Reiki. I'm level 2. I mean, not a big deal, but I've done these different things, but I don't want to be framed in because it's somebody else's frame again. And what we're doing right now, I think, on this planet is we're ushering in this new. Well, if it's truly new, then there isn't a framework. So you have to be okay being uncomfortable with no framework.
Yeah.
Did I just say that? That one gave me chills.
Yeah. I love those validations.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The knowingness that I call them a frisson. It's like a body chill. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a body chill. When I see, hear, feel, shift something, I'll get one of those. And that's always my little ding, 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 like a little gold star.
Mine used to be, I just found a lot of my writings that I didn't throw away. I threw away a bunch of them a few years ago, but I just found some. And it's like, why does my head always tingle? And I haven't had a tingle in a long time now.
The head itch at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are just some of the truths that we have just felt in our selves, that it kind of crosses religion and different spiritual traditions. It's just sort of what we have come to as truth, for us here right now. And I'm sure it'll change over time as we continue to grow and evolve. But boy, it's been easier to let go of Bashar calls them permission slips, the labels, the tools, the crystals, the tarot cards, all of that. It's been easier to let go of a lot of the tools because you don't really need them. The bubbles and the sage and all that. They're great. I love them. And we use them and play with them, but you don't really need them.
You
You
don't think so?
no. It just gets you into a habit or something to focus on,
To connect, intent.
or a permission to do it. Like, okay, if my tarot card says it, then that must be true. Like it's a guide, but you have that inside. I mean, we love our cards. We're always pulling cards.
I know. I laugh at that because I don't. I guess I just don't know my cards because I do pull my cards, but it's really when I'm writing and I'm talking to my guides, they'll say, "Okay, pull a card, pull six," and it's like, "Okay, one, two, three, four, five, six," and it's freaky how it
Oh,
fits.
totally.
I think
Yeah.
it's just confirmation.
Yeah.
Because it's not because I read it and and parts will light up. It's like, okay, that's it's just confirmation.
Yeah.
And so
And I think they will use anything to get our attention to kind of guide us and remind us, whether it's a card or a book or a song or a butterfly, anything to kind of help shift that perspective, that focus. So that's been my experience, man. It's like you said, once you've learned it, I don't think you can unlearn it. So sometimes we're in the 3D world, especially like during this pandemic. We haven't really done many shows because we usually interview all kinds of cool people from all over the world who are all into this. And this last year, we really haven't. It just has not worked. Guests have not lined up or they've canceled last minute. It hasn't worked. And we've been like, okay,
but that's when I think some of that is knowing when to pivot.
yeah,
So when I first started doing design work, I got clients all day long. I mean, it is never had an issue. Well, at one point I decided, maybe I should go back to that. You know, the money's good and it's creative, and I couldn't get a client to save my life.
yeah,
Couldn't. And it's because I'm not supposed to be doing that. And I am so guided. Like I've always felt like I mean, like I've always had this gentle hand,
mhm,
sometimes not so gentle, kind of pushing me.
yeah,
And so I think that knowing the signposts, and I think some of that was, I mean, we did do a couple of shows and we decided not to air them because I think we kept trying to frame them in this, kept trying to do the same thing. And we've grown to a different place, not better, not worse, just we're different. And
yeah.
so we have to allow that in. And I know Tiff's like, so you want to start channeling? Because I channel all the time. And some of the writings are really kind of fun. And I'm like, I don't want to
She
because
doesn't
it
want to
just
do it on camera,
because it just is so, I mean, it's not like
but
I
it's
stick my
great
tongue out,
information.
nothing, but
Okay, just stay tuned.
maybe. But I do think that we're heading into an area. I think we'll always meet incredible people that we'll want to bring in. But at the same time, I think, talking about the evolution, because she does the same thing. She does the exact same thing. I mean, she brings in some really cool stuff. And so we may start doing more of that. And I think some of it for us, I mean, I realize there's probably no segue there, but some of it is just saying it in a way, saying some of these things in a way that may reach people in a different way. Because I know a lot of things I hear and it's just not getting in. It's just bounces right off. Like, I have no idea what you just said. We had a girlfriend that would just eloquent, great writer, great speaker. And she would talk to me. It's like, I'm feeling your words. I don't know what you're saying. I mean, I know what those words mean, but it just
They're not
didn't,
going
it
in.
wouldn't
Yeah.
mesh. And so, but then somebody else could say the exact same thing. Like, oh yeah, I got it. You know? So I think that we will be
Well,
doing
that's
more
it.
of that.
Students ready, the teacher will appear kind of thing in different
Mm.
ways. And I've read books, like you were saying, you want to reread that book because the crayon, because you read it. I'm like that with A Course in Miracles. I've read it multiple times, and each time I get something so different. It's totally different experience. And I don't know, just knowing these truths makes me feel a part of this world, as difficult as it is sometimes, that there is purpose and relevance and meaning, even in the headlines that we see that are just like disbelief. What do you do with that? And I know we all feel that because it's in just such polar extremes of opinion on everything. I have to find a place to keep all that. Like it's all there, it's all relevant, and everybody's having, like, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But just if it helps me be who I am here right now and see all this change and diversity and conflict and be okay with it. It's okay. I don't have to rail against it or make it mean my world is falling apart, or I just find peace with it. And That's that's what I'm looking for anyway.
Okay, I have a question with that because as you're saying
Let
that,
me
I'm
sip
feeling
my
into it.
wonderful tea that you made me.
Yeah, good stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I don't feel that anymore. I think part of waking up is eventually you're going to go down the rabbit hole and you are going to find and you're going to find, hear these incredible stories. Are they true or are they not? I don't know. I mean, lizard people and bunkers under the ground and all of this stuff, and it's credible enough. And I actually had to make a decision to say, I know you're there. There's a version of that somewhere. And it's not, I can't do it. It's just, I could not live the vaccine. Actually, I couldn't live in a world and hold both spots. I had to get off the fence. Do you do it? Do you not? And I say that not to open that Pandora's box, but as you were saying that, I realized I don't feel polarized. I don't feel it. I know, I mean, especially right around the election and all of this stuff. And I was so angry. I was so angry just across the board at everybody. And in my personal life, I mean, and people are making like the puppeteer people that I've never even met, and I will never meet. And yet you like this person, you don't like this person, just the whole, you guys know what I'm talking about. And so, and I'm realizing that making that decision, I don't feel it.
Good.
I really don't feel it.
What do you feel in its place?
I'm only really interested in what's going on right here around me.
Yeah.
I don't care what's going on in the presidency. I don't care. And I mean, not that, because I really don't care. So in reading this Seth stuff, they're talking about, I think it's like the 1980 election, Carter, um, who was it? It was Carter and somebody else. And they were talking just kind of the same thing we have been talking about. And there all these things are going wrong with the world and going and happening and we're basically going down the drain. We're swirling the drain in
This was
1980.
40 years ago. Yeah.
Still here, and it just is. And I, yes, there are so many things we need to clean up on this planet. And I get that. And I'm not saying we don't, but, but at the same time, as Seth said, you guys haven't wiped yourselves out yet. And you'll be okay. You'll be okay. And I choose that, but it's not even that I've chosen that. It's that I've chosen to not have to choose. I'm done. I don't want to talk about it. I say as I talk about it, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, and it just is because you saw it. I was so upset, like to my bones, upset about everything.
Yeah.
So eventually, if you are waking up, eventually you're probably going to go down a rabbit hole of conspiracy stuff and
aliens and disclosure and
yes and no, all of it. Yes and no,
all of it.
and just feel into it. But
choose your reality, create the reality
yeah,
you
that's
want.
true.
And if you feel called into action, I mean, you don't have to just love and light everything. If you feel called into action, jump into action to kind of put your energy into something that you want to change.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, we're not trying to get all preachy here. We're just saying
No.
from our personal experiences, this is
us in a
where
year.
we are, where we're kind of reflecting back over the last 5 years and the journey of where we've been and what has settled, like what's stuck. That's
Right.
what's stuck.
That is what's stuck. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 5
Yeah, we'll
years.
undo all of that. I remember, I think it was Stephen Hawking. He wrote he wrote his book about the theory of time. And they're like, what's your next book going to be? And he's like, I'm going to discredit everything I just wrote. He's like, I'm going to undo everything and prove the opposite or something like that. I'm horribly quoting him, but I love that.
Disprove all the theories I just proved.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
it was like, I love that you can be that open and just like, this is what I believe right now. This is what's happened. This is where I'm at. And it may be different tomorrow.
It's fluid. Everything is fluid. And everything that we think we know will change because the perspectives change. So that is something. My dreams have been crazy, and I wake up and I'm exhausted, and I know, I know that I'm doing a lot of really badass work out there, and it is or some version of me, and it's yeah, there's some crazy stuff going on. I mean, like in a great way. So it'll be interesting to see. So anyway,
thanks for listening to us. Just rattle on about all
time.
the things that have been true for us, and let us know if any of it resonates with you or doesn't, and that's fine. We want to hear.
Yeah, we missed you guys.
Yeah,
I've missed passion. I've just really missed passion, and I feel that again. And so again, we'll post some books, and I don't know if we'll like call them kind of like book clubs, but we're still figuring that part out. But I know I'm making copious notes and examples of some of this stuff because it the stuff in the Seth material, especially for me, is just makes life make so much more sense.
Yeah.
And gives me control, which
Yeah.
is weird because that's all we're
It's
looking
the
for.
lack of control gives you control.
The lack of control is giving. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly right.
Relax, nothing's under control.
Relax, you don't got this.
Yes. You don't have to get this.
No, you don't have to get it.
All right, we could talk forever.
We could.
So thank you for being here with us during this time on the JoyRide Show. We've loved it and we want to hear from you.
Yes.
And we'll make this more of a regular thing.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
Happy
you guys,
birthday to you.
thank you. 50.
50.
50.
She look great for 50. This is the new 50.
It's Zoom. It's Zoom and a nice ring light. You know, Zoom does the blurry thing. There's like Vaseline on the lens.
She looks like that in person with no makeup on in her your flowy clothes. Yeah, beautiful. Anyway, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys. That was fun.
We did.